Now, as the world arrives in South Africa, we have also called home our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. He's at Nasrec for us, and this is, of course, where all of those leaders will converge this weekend at Nasrec, and we're already there to set up and make sure that we're ready to bring you all of what will transpire. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, good morning to you, and I must say, those flights arriving thick and fast at the moment, but of course, overnight, some developments with regard to the United States, whether they are sending a delegation or even just an official for the official handover of that declaration at the end, and of course, assuming the presidency. But talk to us about all of those developments.
Well, as you correctly point out, Sakina, momentum certainly is building around the city of Johannesburg here in South Africa. As you well point out, the leaders are arriving thick and fast. I can give you a quick list of some of the arrivals today. France, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the President of Korea, Brazil, Turkey, Vietnam, the President of Namibia, Angola in his capacity as the African Union Chairperson, Tanzania, India, Italy, Canada, and of course the list goes on. Of course, 40 delegations plus, 20 plus invited, and then of course those that make up the G20. But as you correctly point out, a lot of speculation yesterday about what the US position will be vis-a-vis this G20 summit, and clarification, no need for more speculation. They sent a note verbal, which is an official diplomatic communication to the Department of International Relations. And let me just read you a snippet of what that note verbal says. It says, as head of delegation, the charge d'affaires, who is essentially the man or person in charge of the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria, Mark Dillard, will participate in the G20 presidency handover ceremony as part of the closing session on November 23rd. So there is no speculation as to who they will be sending, because they were quite clear as to what they intended to do. So the White House coming out quite strongly after President Ramaphosa spoke alongside the EU Commission chairperson, EU Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, where he talked about the communication that had been received from the United States, and that discussions were ongoing as to what that participation might look like. And the president, I think, opened the window for perhaps greater engagement with the United States. Initially, they were not coming at all. And so what I heard from the president was him recognizing an opening in terms of the U.S. position, which was clearly stated that they will only participate in the handover ceremony because they, of course, take over the G20 presidency come December 1st. And so there was some speculation as to at what level they might be sending a delegation. That is quite clear in the note verbal, that it will only be for the handover ceremony. And then, of course, we heard quite a stinging rebuke of the South African presidency from the White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt, where she talked about President Ramaphosa running his mouth a little bit, and that the President of the United States and his team did not appreciate that, clarifying again that they will not be participating in any discussions here at the G20, but certainly quite a posture and a tone from the press secretary there. And then, of course, you also heard the South African position, Vincent Magwenya, the presidency spokesperson here in South Africa, saying that the president of South Africa will not hand over to a charge d'affaires, which is, I believe, in terms of protocol, just simply not acceptable, certainly if you're in the South African position here. So a little kerfuffle, as they say, overnight, but certainly providing clarity this morning.
Indeed, Sherwin, and of course, Sherwin at Nasrec for us, and we'll be crossing to him throughout the day. And here on SABC News, we'll make sure that you are abreast of developments as people arrive. And we can tell you already there are some arrivals, as you can see these visuals on the screen right now. And this is, of course, for one of the arrivals that we are seeing. Can't quite zoom in to see which one in particular, but we did see already this morning aircrafts on the tarmacs, and we saw Germany as well as Vietnam, and the leaders of those countries arriving. And we have a whole schedule that we will be walking you through, also getting in charge with who will be receiving them on behalf of South Africa. There you can see the aircraft there at OR Tambo International Airport. That is the arrival of the Prime Minister of Vietnam, His Excellency Pham Minh Chinh, and getting ready for his disembarkment from that craft. And we'll keep your sight on that as we cover other stories as well. So stay with us here on SABC News, which is, of course, the host broadcaster for the G20. All right, that's where we leave our, well, it wasn't even a bulletin. It just feels like it's the news cover to cover. And I guess that is what it is right now. But let's take a quick break. And of course, we have all your other regulars standing by as well. Stay tuned with your sport after this.